All right, thank you very much. I am a program director in the Office of Advanced Cyber Infrastructure within the CISE Directorate, which I will talk about in more detail. And welcome to the CISE presentation. I've already had a chance to meet several of you, so I look forward to hearing your questions and maybe talking more afterwards. I will first give an overview of NSF and CISE, the Computer Information Systems and Engineering Directorate, and then talk about a few selected programs. As you will see, there are way more programs that I will have time to talk about. So we'll cover some of them in detail, and then others I will tell you how to get to them, and then a few closing thoughts. So the Computer and Information Science and Engineering Directorate is one of 8 directorates at the National Science Foundation. I already know that many of you have research that could potentially cross directorates from CISE into engineering or CISE into social, behavioral, and economic sciences. And so I encourage you to explore those kind of interdisciplinary opportunities. CISE has been around a little while. These numbers are from the fiscal year that ended last October. So in fiscal year 23, our budget was about $1 billion with a B, a little bit more than that. We received more than 6,400 proposals, and we funded more than 1,800 of them, about a 29% funding rate. What you should notice about that is that there were a lot of proposals that were not able to be funded. And many of those were good proposals, worthy of funding. So we receive well more proposals than we are able to fund with the allocation of funding that we receive. So if you do get declined because your proposal was submitted and it wasn't able to be funded, don't be discouraged, because you can reapply and improve it and increase your chances of being funded the next time around. The CISE Directorate funded about 370 institutions, 6,600 graduate students, and almost 22,000 individuals, including undergraduate students. It covers almost the whole country, almost all states and territories, many minority-serving institutions, and institutions funded in EPSCoR states. NSF, here's a key figure, NSF funds 80% of federally funded computer science in the United States at academic institutions. That's a big number. That means if you're doing fundamental computer science or applied computer science or interdisciplinary computer science at a U.S. academic institution, the NSF is going to be your go-to funding agency 80% of the time. CISE is organized into 4 separate units. Each unit has a dual leadership, a person that is usually an IPA or rotator as director, and another person that is oftentimes a federal employee who is going to be there a long time as a deputy. Our assistant director for CISE is brand new as of yesterday. So Dr. Greg Hayard just joined us yesterday, and we look forward to seeing what kind of strategy and initiatives he is going to have for CISE going forward. And JD Kundu is the deputy assistant director. I'm going to talk about each one of these units in the next few slides. And you'll see some of these pictures here of the individuals who provide the leadership for these units. So starting in the upper right corner from the previous slide, the Division of Computing and Communication Foundations supports foundational research and education in foundational computing, foundational communications, foundational hardware, foundational algorithms, foundational software, and emerging technologies. And so if your research is at a foundational level, then CCF is probably going to be a place where you may find programs that will fund your research. The next unit is the Division of Information and Intelligence Systems. This supports research and education on the interrelated roles of people, including human-centered computing, and also computers and integrated information to advance knowledge of artificial intelligence, data management, and so on. If you do research in robotics, then you may find that the robust intelligence component of IIS is a good place for you to find funding. Also, you see the word artificial intelligence here. If you do research in artificial intelligence, then this may be a good place for you to look. You should certainly start here. Artificial intelligence is funded across almost all of NSF these days because of the initiatives around AI at the federal level. The Division of Computer and Network Systems supports research and education on systems, computer systems, network systems, cyber-physical systems, secure and trustworthy systems, and new architectures for future generations computing and communication systems. So if your work is at the systems level, systems of all kinds, then you may want to take a look at the programs that are available in the CNS division. The last unit in CISE is called the Office of Advanced Cyber Infrastructure. This is where my home is. And notice it says that it's an office, not a division. It has a different kind of mission within CISE than the other divisions because it reaches across the entire foundation to provide fundamental cyber infrastructure for all of the research areas in the National Science Foundation. Cyber infrastructure means computing, storage, network, and also the people support that help make those things run, along with software systems. We'll talk a little bit more about this. So now I'm going to talk about some selected programs. This is, again, a selected section. I'll talk first about CISE Core and research and education at all levels. CISE Core is the largest program within CISE. And if you're a junior investigator, a new faculty member, you may find a home in CISE Core. It's one of the largest opportunities for funding within CISE. Now you notice here I have that number, NSF 23-561. If you want to know more about any particular solicitation, then you can go directly to the solicitation page by Googling exactly that, NSF space 23-561, and that will take you to the solicitation page for CISE Core programs. And so you see here the 4 different units that I described, IIS, CCF, CNS, and OAC, and within them you see some topical areas that those different units will fund. In IIS you see human-centered computing, information integration and informatics, and robust intelligence, and so on. And so there are many topic areas across CISE where you can find a place for funding. One of the things that gets confusing about this, because a lot of computer science can be interdisciplinary, is how do I know where to go? I mean, maybe I do research that combines artificial intelligence with fundamental algorithms and I apply it to distributed systems. So where do I get my funding? So I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can find a place for funding. If you will go to nsf.gov/award search, there are no spaces in that, you can put in that search box a few keywords that are relevant to your area of research. So human-centered computing might be one of them. Now there happens to be an entire area of human-centered computing in IIS, but that's still pretty broad. And so not all of those projects are going to be relevant to your research. So I have a typo in this slide. When you enter that keyword, the keywords that are relevant to your research, it will bring up a list of programs that have been funded with those topic words. So identify a project that looks close to your ideas and click on it. And read through it. Evaluate, is this kind of close to what I do? Is it not close to what I do? If it seems close, then look and see who the program manager is for that particular project. And you can send email directly to that program manager and ask, is that program suitable is your program suitable for my kind of research? They may ask you to send for you to send to them the 1-pager or the 2-pager. So be prepared, if you're going to do that, to have a short document that describes an overview of your research, what your key problems are, and what the intellectual merit and broader impact of your research will be if you were to be funded. So back to that CISE Core program. We looked at the topics that are there. That's sort of the first question you want to ask. How do I find the topic that's relevant? The CISE core is not really just one program, it's really a collection of programs centered around all those different topics. So other questions that you want to ask when you see the CISE core solicitation is, when are the deadlines? Okay, so in the red circle, it says that small projects are accepted anytime. It says that medium projects have a deadline in October. And there are projects in OAC core, that also have a deadline. Another question you might ask is, what kind of projects can be funded? What is the budget level? So CISE core comes typically in sizes of small, medium, and large. And you can see the budget limitations of the proposals that can go to each one of those categories. So a small project in this solicitation can be funded up to $600,000 for up to 3 years. And it can be submitted to CCF, CNS, and IIS. Also, OAC core has a budget of up to $600,000 for 3 years, and it can be submitted to OAC only. It's kind of like a small. Medium projects have a larger budget. In this version of the solicitation, there are no large projects, but some years, so solicitations are revised continually. When you go to the solicitation page, look at the top corner and see if it says active solicitation. And if it does, then you're looking at the right one. If it doesn't say active solicitation, either it's been retired or it will tell you what it's been replaced by. And then you can click on the new solicitation and read about the information on that. So things that could be revised, like in this case, maybe there's a large competition in a particular year, or maybe they change the budget limits. And sometimes they change the deadlines. So look and see what may be different about a solicitation if you see that there's a new one. And then a last question, or other questions, that you may ask when you look at this solicitation is, who can apply? So who may serve as PI? For this particular solicitation, you have to be either tenured or in a tenure-track faculty position as a full-time faculty member at that institution. So you can't be part-time, you can't be adjunct. We get many inquiries that say, I'm a full-time instructor at my institution, but I'm not tenure-track. Can I apply? And unfortunately for this solicitation, you cannot. You have to be tenured or tenure-track to apply to CISE core. There are other solicitations where you don't even have to be a faculty member. You could be staff. And in some cases, you don't even have to have a PhD. But for this solicitation, they expect you to be a tenured or tenure-track faculty member full-time at an institution who's going to apply as PI. If you do get a chance, yes, question. Yeah, there's a mic.
Sorry, is there a limit to how many smalls and mediums we can submit by October 1st?
Is there a limit to how many smalls you can submit? I believe the answer is 2 per year.
Is that across both small and medium, or is that just for small?
You know what? I have some colleagues online who might be able to answer that question better than I can. In fact, I should have given the chance to introduce themselves. So I have a couple of colleagues online on the chat session. I believe that the answer for size small is 2 per year, and for medium, it may be just 1 per year. I believe that's right. If they say something different, please say so. Okay, so this year you could apply to medium. This year there is no large, but maybe they'll revise the solicitation and there will be a large competition in a future solicitation. If you apply to medium or large, then it requires an additional document called a broadening participation in computing plan. So notice that all CISE core projects expect that you will include underrepresented groups and populations and have activities that lead to a broader engagement for your project. The medium solicitation, the medium competition, requires that you have a supplemental document called this Broadening Participation in Computing Plan. There is a resource that you can go to called bpc.net or BPC.net that is a portal that gives you some examples of BPC plans. If your institution has a BPC plan, then you can use that. If your institution does not have a BPC plan, then you will have to write one for your project. It has to be in place at the time of award. So you can submit without one in place. And then before you can be awarded, though, you have to have a plan. And notice that there's no promise that NSF will respond to your proposal in less than 6 months. So you will have roughly 6 months to put that plan in place. Yes, question?
Yes, so this is from NSF staff member in your office, and just wanted to follow up on the question from earlier. So for CISE, only 2 across solicitation, both small and medium, within 12-month period to core solicitation.
Oh, thank you. So did you hear that? So CISE, only 2 across the small and medium in a year. Okay, so next year you can try again. And notice that limitation is on CISE Core. It's only on CISE Core. That doesn't say anything about all the other programs that you may want to apply to. You can apply to multiple programs. You cannot submit the same proposal to multiple programs. That's disallowed. But you can submit different proposals to different programs, and you can submit 2 to CISE Core and a 3rd one to something else, as long as it's different. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the research and education programs that exist within CISE and across the National Science Foundation. So you'll see some names of things here, maybe even that you've participated in. There are REU programs, REU supplements, and REU sites. CS Grad for US is a program to recruit graduate students into computer science. There's some things there for something called CI professionals who work to support cyber infrastructure. Postdoc kinds of programs, and early career programs. I'm going to talk a little bit about CRII and career, and researcher programs like CISE Core. And I noticed that 10's there. That refers specifically to the OAC unit, not all of CISE, so ignore that number. But this is not a pipeline. It's just for different career stages. And if you have a graduate student, then you probably want to encourage that graduate student, or maybe a rising undergrad, to submit to the GRFP program, for example. So just to make you aware that there are programs for people at all stages of careers. The CISE Research Initiation Initiative, or CRII, is a program designed to help junior faculty at non-R1 institutions have resources that may be similar to what they would have gotten had they gone to an R1 institution. So if you're at an R1 institution, then you are not eligible. Don't try to apply. It will be returned without review. But if you're at a non-R1 institution, then you have to be untenured, and you have to be in your first 3 years of a tenure track or research science or education position as equivalent as of the submission deadline. And you also have to not have been the PI on any prior NSF grants, except for some exceptions, workshop and GRFP and so on. So these are modest size awards, less than $175,000 for exactly 2 years. And again, they give you a chance to have some of the same kinds of resources that may be available to people who are employed at R1 institutions, so that you have a fighting chance to establish your research and go on to win other research awards. The career program is a foundation-wide activity that is also supported by CISE. It is NSF's most prestigious award in support of junior faculty who exemplify the role of teacher scholars. The bar for funding for career is pretty high. You have to have outstanding research, you have to have excellent education, and you have to show integration of education and research within the context of the mission of your organization. So PIs are only allowed 1 submission per competition and 3 attempts total. Every spring, CISE holds career proposal writing workshops. I would encourage you, if you're a junior faculty member, to definitely try and attend these career writing workshops. They will give you lots of hints on how to apply and what will make your proposal more competitive. Within CISE, the proposal deadline is the 4th Wednesday in July. If you're in another directorate, that deadline may be slightly different. So CISE holds proposal writing workshops, aspiring PI meetings, and early career workshops a lot. And like this grants workshop, Our goal is to introduce early career faculty to NSF, to the merit review process, to your peers, and to senior researchers in your field. So there was a workshop held in April. Look for another one in 2025. And notice there's an events page here that you can go to find out about upcoming workshops that may be of interest to you. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about cross-directorate and partnership programs. So maybe core is a good fit, but maybe it's not a great fit for you. Maybe you feel like your research is more interdisciplinary, or you really want to do some things that are kind of outside the box of typical computer science. So I will talk about a handful of the interdisciplinary and cross-foundational programs. One of them is robotics, foundational research in robotics. If you will go to nsf.gov/robotics, then you can see about the programs that exist in the field of robotics. FRR proposals are accepted anytime. So sometimes that's an advantage to you. It means that you don't bump up against the deadline and you're not quite ready to submit, but you submit anyway because that was the deadline. It doesn't come up again for another year. But FRR proposals are accepted anytime. You can wait and make sure that you write a really good proposal before you submit. Another program is cyber physical systems. Cyber physical systems are engineered systems that are built from, depend on, the seamless integration of computation and physical components. A key feature of a cyber physical system is that it has a feedback loop. So you do some analysis, some projections, some decision making, and you feed the results of that decision making back into the physical system. Then you do some sensing or data collection on the physical system and use that again in an analysis step to create this feedback loop. This cyber physical system serves multiple key national priority sector areas, and some of them are shown on the screen here in areas of transportation, energy, healthcare, and critical infrastructure. It's not only is it a cross-directorate solicitation, but it's also a cross-agency solicitation, combining science and engineering with DHS, DOT, NIH, and USDA. Small and medium proposals are accepted anytime. So the solicitation number is 21551. You can Google that and get more information about who to contact in cyber physical systems. Another key cross-disciplinary program is SATSI, Secure and Trustworthy Cyberspace. And the idea here is that we have different kinds of human threats, cyber threats, even physical threats to our infrastructure and to different components of the world that we live in. SATSI addresses these threats to cyberspace. And you can see here some of the collaborations that SATSI has. They collaborate with EDU in terms of AI education. There's a collaboration there across UK in terms of Privacy Prize Challenge. There's the CISE MSI research expansion to reach into minority-serving institutions. Information integrity, another international collaboration with India, and also even designing accountable software systems. So if your research or if your interest are in securing cyberspace, then I encourage you to look at the SATSI solicitation. You can Google NSF SATSI to get the most current information on that. And this area is about cyber infrastructure and access to existing cyber infrastructure. And I'll talk about this access because it's very important for you as a junior faculty to know what kind of resources are already out there. So this is a sketch of NSF and CISE infrastructure program for things. So I mentioned that OAC funds people and software. They also fund things like computers and networks, and maybe software is a thing, maybe data is a thing. So these are organized roughly in terms of size of the award. On the far left is a program with the acronym CSSI, and many times software systems that are going to be able to provide software cyber infrastructure can be funded through CSSI. Campus Cyber Infrastructure is a program I'm going to talk a little bit more about on the next slide. There are another couple of programs here, major research instrumentation and mid-scale research, that were talked about in the OIA presentation just a little while ago. If you didn't hear that, then you can look at the video or the slides on that. There was a lot of useful information about MRI and mid-scale research infrastructure. And then there's one right in the middle called CISE, Community Research Infrastructure. This is a program that's only available within CISE. And the idea is that oftentimes computer scientists need test beds or physical places to try out their algorithms. Maybe it's a sensor test bed or a wireless test bed, or even just hardware as a service test bed. That's where CISE research infrastructure comes in. Now, this is something that a junior PI should not be PI on, but you might want to look and see what kinds of research infrastructure is out there that could help support your research in wireless technologies, or maybe you need to do some testing on an operating system and you need hardware as a service. There are many research infrastructures that have been funded through CISE CRI. So I want to talk a little bit about campus cyber infrastructure. This one is quite different from all of the rest. It actually doesn't fund research. If we get a proposal that funds research, then if it only funds research, then we return it without review. It funds the cyber infrastructure that supports the research. It is a program both at the campus level and at the regional level. If your campus is lacking and you feel like it's lacking in, say, networking, or you want a faster computer system on your campus, or you need storage to share across the entire campus, then you can contact some of your campus leaders, maybe the IT leadership, or someone who's a user of, who's been around, who's a user of some of these campus resources, and see if they would be interested in submitting a proposal to campus cyber infrastructure. It supports networking infrastructure, computing, I'm gonna skip it, storage, and then right in the middle, there is an area, it's the one that does support research. So network integration and applied innovation applies in research around the network to a campus problem. So still applied, it still deploys a system, but it can integrate your networking research to something that could be used across a campus. That one is run out of CNS, not OAC, and if you're interested, I can give you the contact for that. So this slide lists some, but probably not all, of the resources that are available to you as a PI already. We fund some of the biggest supercomputers in the country, certainly the biggest academic supercomputers. We also fund access to AI models and data resources and access that you can get to from your campus, some just by filling out a form on a web page, some you have to apply for and submit a short proposal and describe what research you want to do on them. So if you do any kind of research in high-speed networking, or your work is computational in some way, or you collaborate with a computational scientist, then you may be interested in looking at some of these resources. There are two in the top left that I want to call out in particular. Access, and the URL is in the lower right, is a website that shows you how to access the largest supercomputers that NSF funds. So if you need big computing on a big scale, then go to access-ci.org and find out what's available to you. The PATH program is an umbrella program for a set of distributed resources that support high throughput computing. If you need lots of computing, but maybe not all at the same time, you need to run a parameter sweep on a lot of different parameters with a single program, then you may be interested in looking at what PATH can provide. One of the things that is available through these is Jupyter notebooks that connect to these resources on the backside, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that on a future slide, but just know that the resources on the backside are supported by PATH and Access, and also some of those other URLs that are in that bottom right-hand corner. And now I want to talk a little bit about selected programs for artificial intelligence applications and research. How many of you do some kind of research in AI, whether it's research in AI itself or applied AI, that's a lot of hands going up. Okay, I am not surprised. It's a great topic to be in right now. I want to tell you about the National AI Research Resource, or the NARE. This is a national research infrastructure that has been provisioned as a result of an executive order from Biden last October. And the executive order said that NSF should launch a research resource in 90 days, and we did it. So it came online in January, and it has these goals: to spur innovation, to increase the diversity of talent in AI, to make all of these resources available across all kinds of institutions, not just the R1s, to improve U.S. capacity for AI research and development. And how do we do that? You know, we make the computing, the GPU systems available, we make the models available, we make the data sets available, we make the training available so that you know how to use all these things. And we also want to advance trustworthy AI, as well as support tools and user support mechanisms. The website for the NARE pilot that was launched in January is this, narepilot.org. If you will go to that website and scroll down, you have to scroll down like 3 or 4 pages, you will see a list of current opportunities. So this is what I got a couple days ago. It may actually be different now, but I don't think so. So you can see a link there where you can click on classroom and educator resources. You can request access to educational platforms like Jupyter Notebooks. So if you want to teach a class in AI and you need a place where you can run your models, you just need some labs. You know, you don't want to develop all the labs yourself, then you can apply for access to the Jupyter Notebooks, and they'll probably ask you some questions like what's your class and how many students. And when you get access, then those Jupyter Notebooks will connect to an appropriate resource on the back side. And you don't have to have anything on your campus at all for those, except a network and a browser. And those notebooks will connect to an appropriate resource to run AI models. In the middle, there are also research resources. You can request access to advanced computing, big GPU systems, cloud computing. We provide credits to commercial cloud vendors. Also models, software platforms, and collaborations. And then there are other resources that may be available that do not require an application, certain kinds of data sets or models or platforms that you may be interested in doing research with or on. The National AI Research Institutes program was started a few years ago. NSF has funded 25 multi-organization AI institutes. You should look to see if your campus is a partner in a particular AI institute, because they will have access to training and information and maybe other resources that can help you launch your career collaborations in AI. Each institute is focused on a particular topic area, and so if you may need to look around and find the one that's sort of best suited for you. There's always a lead organization, and there are many subawards. So this has covered most states at this point, but not all, and the solicitation remains open. Educate AI enables educators to make high-quality, audience-appropriate AI educational experiences to younger students, K-12, community college, and also four-year college, and graduate students. So this program came out as a Dear Colleague letter, as a Dear Colleague letter 24-025. Again, you can Google that number and find out more about it. It invites submissions of proposals to advance inclusive AI education. And I would encourage you to look at this if you're an educator and you're very interested in teaching AI at different levels, then this DCL may be appropriate for you. This program called Expand AI has a focus on MSI and equity connectors. And the idea here is to promote capacity development in AI and partnerships between the minority serving institutions and the AI institutes to diversify and strengthen U.S. research education pathways. So there are many submission windows. If you are at a minority serving institution, I encourage you to take a look at this and understand how you can leverage the AI institutes for your research and education. So that's just a handful of the programs that are available through CISE. This page doesn't even list them all. This is still only some of the programs that are available through CISE. So there are a lot of them out there. I found out in the OIA presentation that there's a new tool out there called, what's it called? Prospect. And what's the website? Suitability.nsf.gov. I didn't even know about it. So if you're a new researcher and you haven't quite found your home yet, then I would encourage you to take a look at that as one of your ways to find information about the programs. You can go to the program page, like the CISE Core. You can do the nsf.gov/award search, like I told you about, to find similar programs and then dig down into that. And you can also go to suitability.nsf.gov and see if you can find a program that is suitable for your research. So you log in, you have an account, and then you type a short piece of information, and then there's a real human on the back side who will read your information and then identify suitable programs. And then it's still your job to go and contact the program officer, but at least you have a direction to go. Okay, so I just have a couple of closing thoughts, and then I will have time for questions. It's an amazing time to be in the CISE community. Computing is everywhere, it's still everywhere, it's been everywhere, it's gonna still be everywhere. And now we've got AI, this is not gonna stop. Computing intertwines with many communities, like maybe every community. And there's actually some urgency in this, securing cyberspace, ethical AI, making sure that computing is used responsibly, as well as efficiently and effectively, and solving all the transportation problems, all kinds of problems. So there is a certain urgency about the research that you're doing, and NSF wants to help you figure out how to get funding to support the research that you want to do. And I think I have some time for some questions. And also, I'll hang around a little bit after this. If anybody wants to talk with me one-on-one, we'll find a time.
Thank you. Sort of trivial question. On slide 4, it says CISE has funded research in 48 states.
CISE Core.
Oh, okay.
That was CISE Core.
So 48 states, I wonder what's the other 2 that's not received?
Well, I could guess, but I might be wrong, so maybe that was back here. It was on the CISE thing. It wasn't CISE Core. It was CISE. Well, 1 territory, so that means a couple territories have not been funded. I don't want to guess. Okay.
So some of the advice we've gotten all week is to reach out to our program director or the program manager.
Yes.
And I was wondering, in CISE, if we have questions about suitability for career in particular, is there a way to discover the right program manager or program director to talk to?
So it's the same question. If you were looking at, say, CISE Core, then you would tease out which piece of CISE Core is most relevant, and that's the same person you will talk to about your career.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I had a question about the campus cybersecurity opportunities that you mentioned. As an example, if one wanted to set up, say, an AI center to house like infrastructure, hardware, et cetera, for large-scale AI experiments across, say, a single department in a school, would that be something that would be applicable?
Okay, that's a really good question. So you said AI, it could be any kind of research area. I have a research area that I want to support some experimental activity, say in my department. Okay, so that probably would not be a good, campus cyber infrastructure would probably not be a good target for that because it needs to support the entire campus. So it's campus cyber infrastructure. You might be able to look at CERC if you're going to share this, like not only within your department, but maybe outside to other similar departments at other institutions. It does require sharing and a collaboration outside a single institution. Another place you might consider is MRI. If you're at a small institution, you can fund things as low as $100,000. And so it has to be an undergraduate serving institution to fund it below a certain threshold, but it's possible that you could make the case that MRI would be a good place or a good funding option. I would talk to a cognizant program officer in MRI. And if the cost is modest enough, then you might be able to include it as a component of a regular research proposal.
And what constitutes a modest cost, like $100,000, $10,000? Or?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the threshold on a core small is $600,000.
Oh, okay.
And if you wanted to use $100,000 of that to set up a lab, as long as you can fit everything else that you want to do in the remaining $500,000, then you might be able to make the case for that.
Okay, great. And my second question was about the career award specifically from CISE. So you mentioned that there's different deadlines for different centers, I guess.
That's for different directorates.
Directorates. Yeah. So my question would be, so does the career awards for the different directors, I guess they get evaluated all in the same directorate separately, or do they all get pooled together in like the same review panel?
So CISE career proposals will be evaluated within CISE. Mostly. I mean, if there's a proposal that clearly has some interdisciplinary components to it, then it's possible it could be co-evaluated, but mostly it will be evaluated within CISE, almost always.
Gotcha. And I noticed that there was a research component and an education component. So my follow-up question would be, what if you're at an institution which is not primarily a teaching one, it's primarily a research institution, like there's no, for example, undergraduate school attached to it, what would be the options for those folks?
So it's a graduate-only institution. Well, you still have graduate students, so you can incorporate your research into your graduate classes, into graduate projects that maybe are not necessarily leading to a thesis or PhD. You can potentially include undergraduate REU students as a component. I don't know if you need to do that. I would talk to the cognizant program officer in career, since that's kind of a special institution, a graduate-only institution. And so I would talk to the program officer on that one.
Okay, so it sounds like it's more about the plan moving forward rather than someone's research, like teaching experience prior up to that point.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, question online.
Yes, I have a comment from one of your colleagues. So she just wanted to make a comment. So the NAIRR pilot demonstration projects NSF 24-093, May 28th, 2024, eager or supplemental funding. I don't know if that.
Read it again.
Okay, sure.
So the NAIR pilot.
Sorry. So it's from
We're in June
Sylvia.
now, so that deadline is passed. Unless was that the date that it was published, the DCL? Or was that a deadline?
It looks like from this that was. I can't tell honestly from the comment, but Sylvia, I know you're online. If you want to add some additional context, I can share that with Amy.
Okay, so we'll come back to that. Yeah, there are a number of DCLs and sort of conversations around NAIR right now, and they don't always come to me. Okay.
So yes, to the date of DC.
That was the date of the DCL. So she's trying to make you aware that there's a new DCL out for classroom, NAIR classroom. I think that's right. I do believe that there's a NAIR classroom DCL out. It should be on the NAIR pilot page, and so I would encourage you to look for that. If not, Google NSF NAIR classroom, and you'll find it.
I got a quick question about the CRII. So I'm a junior faculty and I'm from non-R1 institutions, and I was the PI, but one of my co-PI is a senior personnel and from the R1 institutions. So can we target this CRII program?
So the question is, you're from non-R1.
Yeah.
And you want to write a CRII.
Yeah.
And you want to have a senior personnel from an R1 institution.
Yeah, but as co-PI.
Well, co-PI as co-PI.
Yeah, as co-PI.
I'm not
PI.
sure that CRI allows co-PIs.
Oh, no, not allowed co-PI, only one PI for this.
One PI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
I believe I believe you could include that person as a senior investigator. I'm not sure. I would suggest that you talk to, I'm going to say Mimi McClure. I think she is a good contact person for CRII.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I don't have all the answers. I have a lot of answers, but not all of them.
So I have a quick update. So the date of DCL is for July 10th, 2024.
Oh, so there's a deadline of July 10th, July 10. Is it because we're already into what, July the, 4th? Oh, July. Oh, yeah, you've got a month. I'm skipping a month here. Yeah, so take a look at that, because that may be of keen interest and it may be a, kind of a low bar. We're really trying to reach out through educational opportunities and, broader engagement. And so if you have an idea that would be responsive to that call, that DCL, and you got a month to write a proposal and maybe it's not even a full proposal, then yeah, take a look. We're eager to hear those.
So if there's a DCL that offers supplemental funding, but the supplemental funding is kind of core to the idea of the proposal, is it a bad idea to structure the proposal that way? Should you just structure the proposal so it's not dependent on that?
Well, if it's a supplement, it has to be a supplement to an already funded award. So you can't really supplement something that's not awarded yet. So you write your proposal, you get funded, you're doing your project, and then a DCL comes out and you can respond to it in some way. It would be uncommon for you to get awarded and be able to respond to a DCL that pre-existed before you submitted because of that lag time.
Oh, so are DCLs only for existing projects when the DCL is released, not for future projects?
Supplements are only for existing projects. Sometimes the DCLs also invite eagers. And I believe one of the previous talks yesterday talked about what an eager is. So this is an award for early exploratory research. And so the eager is described in the PAPG. So you can Google NSF space eager and you'll get some information on it. It's a shorter proposal, 6 to 7 pages, up to $300,000 for a couple of years. And but before you write the proposal, you talk to an NSF program officer. So in the DCL, it should have either the name of a program officer or maybe a group email or some indication of who to contact. And so you talk to the program officer about your idea and see if they will invite the eager. And if they invite the eager, then you could write that 6-page proposal. So you don't have to have an existing award to propose with an eager. You do have to have an existing award to propose a supplement.
So I guess just to clarify one more time then, so if there's a DCL that was already been released, say a couple of years ago, then that was only applicable for projects ongoing at that time?
Talk to the program officer. That's usually the case. Usually DCLs kind of time out. There's sort of immediate opportunities and a year later.
Like other programs where we'll say at the top, this program is expired and not accepting or anything like that.
Something like that. Okay. Yeah. Talk to the program officer.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks. I have a kind of follow-up question regarding the 2 per year requirement for CISE core. It's like, how does a year get counted in this context? Is it like a natural year starting in January or like a year starting in August? Since the small one doesn't really have a deadline, if I submit, say, 2 in July, do I get to submit 1 in October since it counts as a new year?
Yeah, so the question is, when does the year start? Does it start at the federal fiscal year on October 1st, or does it start at a calendar year on My guess is it's probably the federal fiscal year, but
And also, does it count like the submission date? Okay.
yeah, so the size core small are accepted anytime.
Yeah. Okay, so the 2 per year counts as when I submitted.
I'm not sure.
The 2 per year is like the submit date of that application.
Correct. Yes, the submit date. So don't submit more than 2 per year.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, because the reason I think it's the federal fiscal year is because that would come out of the same budget allocation. And if it's calendar year, that it messes with that. Maybe one of my colleagues online will confirm that. Okay, more questions?
Yes, so there was actually a comment from online. So years of submission of proposal, not fiscal year.
But the small is accepted any time, so there's no year. Except that maybe it follows that year for the mediums, which ends in October, which is kind of like the federal fiscal year. If you're submitting that many proposals, you might want to broaden your scope a little bit. So one thing I've seen junior faculty make the mistake of is you think, I'm going to submit 10 proposals this year. Surely one of them will get funded. It's kind of like playing the lottery. The more tickets I buy, the more likely I am to win. Not true. It is if you submit 10 proposals, then you're probably doing a really good job at writing those proposals. But you may not be doing the best job in the panel because you didn't have time to go back and like really proofread every little last detail. It's a much stronger plan for you to write 2 or 3 excellent proposals, like top of the panel proposals. Because remember how I told you at the beginning of this talk that there are 70% of the proposals that don't get funded? Many of those are really good proposals, but they didn't rise to top in panel. And so if you want to have a higher chance of getting funded, you want to have the best proposal in the panel. So don't submit 10 really good proposals, submit 2 or 3 great, awesome, outstanding proposals that are the best in the panel, and you'll have a higher chance of getting that one funded. And then once you get one, then you know how to play the game, and your next chance of getting funded actually goes up because you know what to do, you know how to do it. I would also encourage you to serve on a review panel if you can. And the way you can become known for a review panel is the same way that you look for your program. Find a program that is of interest to you and send your name to the cognizant program officer and say, I would really like to participate on a panel in this area, and attach your CV. And we're always looking for good reviewers, and we're always trying to reach out to broadly engage new faculty as reviewers. And so that's a good way to become a reviewer and become more familiar with the program. So when you are a reviewer and you serve on a panel, then you start to see the difference between what a panel thinks is a really awesome, great proposal and one that they think is actually, pretty good. In a panel of, I don't know, let's say 12 proposals, there might be a couple that are really awesome, great proposals. There might be another half a dozen that are good, maybe high quality competitive proposals, and then others that are lower competitive, maybe even a couple that are just not very good at all. Okay, you don't want to be in that category. If you're good, if you're like really good, competitive, but you're not awesome, excellent, then only some of those are going to get funded. So that's why you don't want to send out 10 proposals that are really good. You want to send out a couple of 3 that are just really awesome. And then your chances of getting funded go much higher. Yes.
So I have a question from the virtual audience. Is there a suggestion, and you might have just covered this, but is there a suggestion for how to balance the advice to submit fewer proposals with institutional pressure to submit as many as junior faculty? Our recommendation as junior folks from the university is to submit at least 30 proposals per year.
30? I'm sorry. That's probably not realistic. That's like 2 or 3 a month. That's like almost 1 a week. Yeah, that's not very realistic. That just blew my mind. I was going to say something. And I don't even know what to say. I don't know how to respond to that. Okay, any more questions? You have a question?
I have comment regarding this question. You even cannot submit 30 of them because there's 2 months restriction for budget that you can allocate of your time. And if you do not allocate your time for this proposal, it means that you're not going to work on this project. So how it's possible?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. You know, you have to list the current and pending for every NSF proposal that you submit. And if your current pending lists 30 proposals, you know, or maybe even 20 proposals, the panel will look at that and they'll say, this person's overcommitted, they can't do this work, and that will count against you. So you have to take that into account also. Another piece of advice I can give you is read the solicitation carefully. Now, CISE core and CISE solicitations in general tend to be very broad. You know, they're all encompassing about, you know, CNS is systems, all kinds of systems, and CCF is foundations, all kind of foundations. So it's pretty easy to stay, you know, between the rails on CISE solicitations. But read the solicitation carefully. If they're looking for research, then propose research. If they're looking for educational activities, propose educational activities. So make sure that you write the proposal for what they want to fund. Don't write the proposal for what you want to do. That's the wrong solicitation. Write the proposal for what they want to fund. And then you're also more likely to get funding. How many of you have been funded by NSF? Only a few, okay. So we're ready for you. Okay, so we're pretty close to the end. Any more questions? All right, well, go forth.